Welcome back, everyone, to Punching Up. I am your host, Maya May, and now we have something that we definitely need to punch up at. I want to start with the obvious. We have good news and we have bad news. The good news is that we now know unequivocally that we are living in a very racist, very misogynistic culture that couldn't see fit to elect the most qualified person to the highest office in the land, and instead chose to go with the adjudicated rapist who claims that he's going to protect women at all costs. I've had 2 hours of sleep, y'all. We're pre-taping this because I decided I wanted to get home to my family, and I want to acknowledge the hurt and pain that so many people are feeling right now. Because trust me, I'm feeling it too. But I want to be real with you. I was feeling it back in 2022, back in 2021, because Lisa Senecal and I were hosting We're Speaking, and we were interviewing dozens and dozens of experts on fascism, domestic terrorism. And as I was listening to a lot of these people speak, I realized, wow, they're giving us a list of things that we need to do to prevent the descent into fascism. And I was looking around and I was like, oh, we're not doing any of the things. Like, it would be 9 chapters of a book that's like, we got this problem, this problem, this problem, and that problem. And then in the end, it was like, if we do this list of 10 improbable things, we'll be okay. So I got my crying done back then. I haven't actually cried yet this time around. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure we're all going through many different stages of grieving right now. And I want to talk quickly before we get into our show. And we are going to have an amazing show tonight because we do have on Allison Reese, who is Kamala Harris impersonator, comedian. She's hilarious. But we also have on Liz Minnella, who is one of the co-organizers of White Women for Kamala Harris. And, well, I have lots of questions for her on what went wrong there, because I don't know if you saw my viral tweet about me and my white friends from age 4 or 5 wondering, are white women going to save us this time? Looks like we have not been saved. It looks like we all are going to have to save ourselves. And so I want to start the show off with that positive note because, yeah, shit is looking really bleak right now. Really bleak. But I was built for this moment. I am a survivor of many levels of fuckery. And so come with me if you want to thrive. And this isn't toxic positivity. This is strategic positivity. We're going to be talking about strategic optimism, because one thing I know as a comedian is that laughter is key to being able to solve problems. If we are completely like, it makes it incredibly difficult to think clearly. So we can be like, right now, and probably for many days, and I'm going to disconnect from the internet entirely at some point so that I can recharge. But do know that the only way we're going to get through this is with the attitude that we're going to get through this. So with that being said, I want to bring in my first guest. Coming to the show, Liz Minnella. What happened with the white women, Liz?
Wait, ladies, you let me down. I really thought you bitches were going to do it this time. Unfortunately, we voted in the same percentage for the Democrat, 47%, and we peeled off a point from the Republican, but I guess we gave it to a third party. 52% of white women voted for Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. It's hard to even say out loud. So unfortunately, we did not answer the call. Some people did, the rest of them did not. I think obviously we can state it was an uphill battle on things like the real feel of the economy and the perception of the border, things that matter a lot to white women in Pennsylvania. The border is so important to them. They were
actually, I want to put, you said perception. Let's talk about that a second, because there is the perceived danger and then there's real danger. And a lot of what MAGA trafficked in is perceived danger. Now you're on the ground, you're surrounded by white women. Where's the danger? Where's the actual danger?
There really is none. It's perceived danger. Violent crime is down down. People are living in states that do not see large influx of immigrants. We also know that immigration is one of the greatest renewable resources to our economy. Ultimately, every incumbent party in the world facing re-election in the post-COVID inflation era met our same fate and failed. We tried to outwork our fate. In particular, we tried to drill down on this white women coalition and outwork and out-organize and out-effort our fate, but we failed. I think if I were to pick an area that we failed, outside of the things that we couldn't control, like the real feel of the economy and inflation, I think the arena of organic persuaders messaging online, this is something that you and I sat on a panel and talked about a year ago.
Yep.
To people who needed to hear that message. And we fell short. We are not messaging in those spaces. They are on the right. It's called Turning Point USA. They're also bolstered by the tech bros who own the platforms that they message on. Mm-hmm. But Turning Point USA is an online media company who pays people to push right-wing talking points across all new media platforms. And we have a pinky toe in the space. Mm-hmm. But we need to dive in. We need to fight back online. We need to meet these people where they are. We sounded these alarm bells and we said, you need to use everyday people to organically message and persuade voters. The right didn't have a ground game because they didn't need it. They didn't need to knock 10 million doors.
Yeah. And I saw
like that you can, if you are, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I saw, because I went and knocked doors and I saw that they didn't have much of a ground game at all. But yes, they do have the digital game. And that was the question I asked myself every day. We made those jokes about like how to the trad wife side of the internet, like when the trad wife influencers were really peaking, a lot of us were toying with that idea. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just have to be a fitness influencer to be able to get to the side of the internet that is being duped by the now what is the Make America Healthy Again movement. Because living in California, let me tell you, I was well aware that there were people in my classes, in my meditation classes, all my hippy dippy classes, my soul cycle classes, that there were people in there who were very much of the like, wow, RFK Jr. really knows what's best for us and our bodies. And so if he's supporting Trump, then we should be supporting Trump. And so that to me is when the alarm bells started going off. Is like, I was like, oh God, this is a message that is very viable with these granola crunchy moms, of which I am one. Like I am actually, I believe in, healing my body, but through food and all those things. But I also go to the doctor and I also get vaccines and my kid also gets vaccines. And so that was like my concern. That's when I started to get worried. When did you start to get worried?
I got very worried after I spent the weekend in Pennsylvania and we were on the doors and it was bad and the polls were bad and the people that I was talking to in real life was bad. And then I go online and it's bad. I'm getting their messaging stuff. Like it's just, they're putting it out there. They have so many thousands of paid influencers pushing out their messaging that they don't need to open a single field office. They don't need to make a single phone call or print up a single mailer. Like they have this infrastructure of people and they are all simpatico on their messaging and they are very well paid. So I would see it in person. I would see it in the polls and then I'd see it online. And then still, we were just the eternal optimists of the Democratic Party. We're like, no, polls are lying. You must have had a bad batch of doors. You got to get off the internet. And I'm like, okay, well, where is my reality?
Right. And reality matters, right? And I'm a strategic optimist, as I was saying at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. And so I believe optimism costs nothing. So I will be optimistic at all times, regardless. But I definitely do pay attention to the data and I do pay attention to what I'm hearing and seeing. And so for me, I'm like, when I'm out now or canvassing, I'm going, let's see, when I make a video, I can make a reel and that reel can hit, I don't know, 20,000 people in a couple of hours. And if I'm knocking on a door or if I'm phone banking, maybe I can hit 3. It's just not scalable. And so the thing about the digital game is it is so scalable. And I actually lived down the street for a while from Prager University. And so one thing that scared me about PragerU's videos is how slick they are. If you watch them, and you aren't already media savvy and you're not savvy about the political game, you can watch those videos and get easily duped. And so that was like, when I saw how slick those were, I was like, this is going to be very attractive to Gen Z. And that is what we're seeing, is that Gen Z men, right, did not break in the direction that we would have liked them to, which is a scary thought, because those men, those young boys, are in schools with our daughters.
Yes. And they are the prime target of this online propaganda, because they are online the most. And it doesn't have to be a person who has a big following. You've probably never heard of half of these people. You can have a following of like 25,000 people and you get 10 million impressions in a month. It took the entire Democratic Party to knock 10 million doors. It took every single person, every volunteer, every state battleground state party chair to get together on an operation to have 10 million in reaches. We didn't even connect with, you usually connect with only like 10% of the doors you knock. But they are able to do it day in and day out, and they just constantly hammer with the message. And I think that we need to now, I am proud of what we've built. We have built a coalition of women who care, and we use technology to connect with hundreds of thousands of people across the country whose values align with the Democratic Party. But there was a moment where we were telling them, we were like, we got all these people, they're in, and they're like, great, get them to donate and get them to knock doors. We need them to be online messengers. We need to train them and fund them to be well-informed online persuaders. And we do that by creating an infrastructure that resources and develops these people. We basically just need a left-wing media company that pays influencers. I really think it's as simple as that. And then whatever the hell is going on, we can create the messaging. It probably should be done outside of the Democratic Party, just like Turning Point USA is. But I think that's the key. It's just, we have this structure in place. We just need to invest in it and message and kind of get out of our own way.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they thought that the traditional media would hit those talking points for progressives, for Democrats. And so maybe the money didn't need to flow towards influencers in the way that money really needed to flow towards influencers. We were both at the DNC. There's a ton of fear around influencers encroaching on this traditional media space. But right-wing media didn't have that fear because, one, they had already been ostracized. So in a way, that kind of already set them up to win because they were on the outside. So they had to create their own ecosphere, their own ecosystem. And we relied on traditional media in many ways that people weren't responding to. And it's very difficult to get funding for these things. And this story fell off very quickly, but like Tenet Media, all of the investment that was going to right-wing influencers being paid for by Russia, like we're talking about a well-funded machine. And in order to, I agree with you 100%, in order to meet them and beat them, we need that funding, period. End of story.
We have to play their game.
Yeah.
The Democratic apparatus needs to stop looking at our own playbook from last cycle. We make our playbook better. Our same old, raise the money, knock the doors, get the ground game, get the turnout. We need to start looking at their playbook and figuring out how we can be better at their playbook. It's like gone are the days. We need to rebuild the Democratic Party. People were not buying what we were selling, and they were not even paying attention to the way we were selling it. So hopefully things change in the world. The economy that Biden fixed, that Trump will now break. Hopefully we will have that feeling of that economy during the Trump presidency, but people will just be sick of him. And hopefully we invest in this and we can rebuild the way we market. We'll have a better message to get out there. And we will have a better way to market it.
No, 100%. And I think that's actually a perfect time to bring in my next guest, who I'm excited for the two of you to meet and be in conversation with each other. Allison Reese. Y'all, Allison is a friend of mine from the Chicago comedy scene. And if
Mm.
you aren't familiar with her, she blew up
I love it.
millions of views with her Kamala Harris impression, which gave us a lot of joy and a lot of laughter. And unfortunately, we are not in the place that we wanted to be where we could continue right now laughing.
Nope.
I know, Allison, you're feeling it. Welcome to Punching Up.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it is so funny that you bring up the influencer sphere, because I've recently been inducted into whatever that is. And I went to the DNC in that capacity, and it is so interesting to see, because the right was constantly accusing us of getting like paid to be there, which we weren't.
Right.
And to like hear that the right was actually paying their own is just so fun. Because I'm like, any accusation they make is actually an admission of their own guilt every single fucking time. So it just is so crazy to me. And like, my own experience with that wasn't, I have on video, I have yet to post it, but 2 journalists came up to me and were like essentially harassing me for being there as like an influencer. And we're like, what is that? Is that your little camera? And they like had New Jersey accents, because of course they did. They must have been cartoons, right? They're like, oh, so what do you hear? I was like, oh, I do an impression. They're like, that's it? That's it? That's all? That's what you're doing? And they're like, so is this your camera? Is that your little camera? So you get your little camera out and you do a little thing? And I was like, what the fuck? It was so crazy. So yeah, to see how it all has shaken out, been just, I have such whiplash.
Well, it could have been so effective, right? Your presence at the convention, both of you, all of us, all 3 of us, we were all there. It could have been effective, and I'm glad that you brought up the treatment by the journalists, but just also in organization in general. Like, Liz, I know you were part of the finance part of things, and so had probably a different experience. But like, Allison, did you feel that you had access to the people you needed to have access to ask questions? Tell everybody about that experience, because I feel like they need to hear it.
So it was like, I was really grateful to be there, because it was just like such a crazy experience. But also it was like I was dropped in the middle of a place I didn't know. And like probably the most confusing layout of all time, with the convention center in Chicago. But like, you're just kind of dropped in this world, and I was like, I don't know what this is. There wasn't, and it just didn't feel super welcoming either, because of like the journalists there were really upset. And then you just see people being like, oh, can I talk to you for a bit? Can I? And then the article would come out and be like, these influencers are getting paid to be here, and like, it's disrupting journalism. And it's like, why are you like knocking us at the knees? Like, we're trying to do the thing that you're here to do too, but just like in this other sphere. And yeah, it felt like you didn't get access to anyone or anything really. They had like a little red carpet, and that was people would come up if they want to. That was usually it. It was like people could come up to you if they wanted to, and like do a thing. Or sometimes they would schedule out. You would meet with somebody and have your own little thing. But it was a very handpicked few that got to do things with the different political leaders. So I know that like Kamala and Tim did videos and stuff with people who were there, but it was like not, it was bigger creators and just like a few, which I thought was interesting.
And Liz, you had kind of not a similar experience, but you were able to interact and witness it.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with them. It's this interesting space that I think that some people in the political establishment think of influencers like the press. So they kind of put them in the bucket of the press, but there are some differences. I think we need to take them out of that bucket. They are not the press. We need to look at them as our keyboard warriors. And we need to, again, probably not the campaign, but a large media organization needs to like pay them and resource them as such. Let them go do their thing. They don't have to be affiliated with the campaign. They don't even need to have do an interview with these people, but let them go be their keyboard warrior selves, message it within whatever hobby is going to attract the initial audience. So you like baking bread? Well, did you know Trump's a fascist? I don't know. They do a better job of
that was you and my drafts. I feel like you just went through my drafts and found a video I hadn't posted
you're
yet.
Kneading the dough, like you're gonna have to knead your
right. Yeah, you're gonna need
like they'll find a way to weave it in. But I think we need to be really clear about what online persuaders should be used for. They are not press. They are different. They are better than the press because they believe in our values and they're able to say, you can say whatever you want. It's the internet and it's just you. And then if people like what you're saying and it's attracting an audience and it's syncing with the messaging and it's persuading voters, we get that. We can tell in real time when that's happening based on comments, based on DMs, based on views, and then extrapolating that to the trends that we see maybe in the polls. But I think we need to really invest in that and then let people go. And the better they do, the more you pay them. And it's like, hey, you've been getting huge amounts of viewership. You are now, keep going, keep bringing more people in and keep finding the things that rile them up and get them to the voting booth. I think we're
it's more nimble. It's more nimble too. When you have dozens or hundreds of creators who can come at something from their own perspective, the minute something happens in the world or there's a policy that needs to be explained, everybody can explain it in their own way to their own group of people. That's where the trust is now in these parasocial relationships. And so people don't tune into traditional media with that lens anymore. Like people want to, and to bring this back to, I kind of want to jump all over because I wanted to talk about the difference between a face-to-face relationship, which we think knocking on doors face-to-face, like Allison being on stage is king, right? That's traditionally what we've thought. But in this age of post-COVID, digital living, loneliness, it feels like digital is more real than knocking on a door face to face. This relationship that I'm having with the people who are watching the show feels in many ways more real and more comfortable than talking to a stranger at their door.
100%. Because we let people come in, we do content from our bedrooms. We let people into our lives. We are honest with them. We're emotional with them. We are not bound by, even on the doors, you have to stick to your script. We are able to be authentic and organic in how we message and what we say. That resonates with people. It does. I mean, we saw it. Look at the country right now. And it doesn't. I think they're also a little bit hesitant to use it because you can't break it down into buckets. It's very hard to be message to Latino voters in Nevada via the internet. You kind of have to cast this really wide net. And we saw that. And that's why in places like Illinois, she only won by 4 points. She usually wins by 17, or the Democrat usually wins by 17 points. It's because they just cast this big, big net of shit and it landed everywhere, and it landed hard in the places it needed to land. And that's what we need to do, cast a big, big net.
I do wonder what this campaign would have looked like if she had more than 120 days, 130 days, because a lot of that stuff was, I remember it was she was announced as Biden endorsed her, and then it was I immediately got that email from the folks who were affiliated with the DNC stuff. So I wonder if there was more time, if there is a world where, I guess in the future, to consider these things is so important, because this is just.
But to bring it back to what I said up top is more time would not made her less Black and woman. Doesn't matter how much time she had to campaign. And at the end of the day, when I look at all the data that comes in and I look at what the reality is versus what people's perception of what their fears are and what's hurting them and their families, it's not mathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that makes sense is they looked at this capable leader and thought, not a leader. I think we have a graphic on that, Sam. We could pull up the leadership. There it is.
That's crazy.
That's fucking insane.
34%. It's so unreal. Like,
yeah, I had a conversation with a lady in Pennsylvania at the doors, and she said, I mean, I don't take her seriously. Can you imagine her like talking to world leaders? I'm like, I don't have to imagine her. She already does it. What do you think the vice president does? Like, she has been dealing with world leaders for forever. Why do you think they don't take her seriously? It's just so much internalized misogynism from women and just outright misogynism from men.
It is interesting what the proximity of whiteness and maleness does to somebody. Like, to see white women and Latino men voting for Trump in droves. I'm like, you're not at the tip of that totem pole, and you placating them isn't going to make it so. Yeah, incredible.
I've been having that conversation all day since last night. My daughter is Latina, and I hesitated because I was like, these numbers can't be fucking real. Like, that was my first thought late last night. I was like, this can't be real. This has to be some sort of disinformation campaign that's being launched to cause us to attack and go at each other. Like, that's absolutely what this has to be. But then I sat back and thought about it. And yes, the proximity to whiteness, Allison, as you said, is a powerful thing. And this idea of being accepted and being able to assimilate, it reminds me a lot of apartheid South Africa and honorary whites. And this idea that somehow one can be close to that and accepted. And I'm like, that is not how this is going to go down, unfortunately, for a lot of people. And that is the part that I was crying about years back, was people are not mentally and emotionally prepared for what it feels like to live in an oppressive place, in an oppressive regime. Like, Black people, Black women, we're used to it. Like, to be honest with you, like, I am really good at it. Like, I have survived under it. But I said this to my mom. I was like, we'll be fine because we've lived through it. And she's like, yeah, but I don't want to. It's like, I wanted my golden years to be enjoyable. I wanted my golden years to be in a place where we thought we had turned the page. And I think that was the hope that I was clinging on to, no matter what the feels were starting to feel like. Like, I was like, oh, I am just going to hope that people are going to surprise me, even though I knew deep down in my heart, I was like, this isn't gonna turn out the way we want it to. So moving forward, that's the title, the subject of the show. Like, we're like, yeah, today we're getting back to work. No, I'm taking a rest, y'all. I need everybody to know I'm disconnecting for like at least 3 or 4 days. You will not hear from me. And then I'm going to be boxing and meditating and doing all the things. But going forward, how do we do comedy right now? How do we reach the people right now? Tell me. And I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you.
How do we do comedy right now? Ooh, it's fascinating. I feel like, a lot of comedians, because the internet is the Wild West and there's like no media literacy, it's a minefield. And a lot of people don't even know what punching up is, or like understand the dynamics surrounding that and what that means, or like even the definition of satire and how it's not just a joke. Like, you can't just be like, oh, it was a joke, it was a satire. It's like, no, how is that? You said it genuinely, So how do we do comedy moving forward? I've always come from a place of like, are you knowledgeable about the subject before you start going off on it, right? Does your point of view align with it? Does your identity align with whatever it is you're talking about? Like, I don't know. I did comedy in Chicago where there was like a lot of like straight white men who were like, yeah, I was called the F slur in high school, so I can say it. And it's like, that's not how it works. Not right. Yeah. That's actually not it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, where does your identity align with things, and who are we giving platform to, and who are we listening to?
Mhm.
Yeah, the weight is heavy because comedy gives validity to things, and I feel like that has given Republicans a huge leg up these last 4 years with, the Joe Rogan shit, the Kill Tony stuff. It just made their movement valid by having a culture of comedy around it, which is disgusting because
Yeah.
it's like it's entirely punching down. It's just
Well,
low hanging fruit left and right.
absolutely, and by punching down, and I credit Dave Chappelle with the master of punching down, which created that permission structure and that shift in our culture to say it's okay. It's okay to do this. And so young boys, young men watched the Dave Chappelles of the world, watched the Joe Rogans of the world, and said, oh, okay, it's okay now. It's a part of our culture. And it led to a shift to where we're at now. And so that's why, art is activism. Art influences where we're at as a culture. And by allowing comedy like that to kind of spread like with the idea of that, oh, it's just a joke. This is why, to me, comedy is meant to elevate. Like, yes, it's meant to be funny, but it's meant to elevate. And that is the punching up. Just a reminder to everybody who's watching the show, when we say punching up, that's what we mean. It means punching up at the power structures, not punching down at marginalized groups, because that is where it leads us. Liz, organizing, where are we going from here? What do we do? Zoom calls every week? What is happening?
I know. I think so something that's interesting about the Zoom calls is we had 160,000 women sign up for the first white women answer the call. We did the same call. We said, meet us back here. We're going to teach you how to organize. We're going to come together. Now, we know we didn't have all the celebrities, and we're not going to get the same amount of people. We had 160,000 people join the first call. We started doing the call as a weekly organizing. First week, we dropped down to 10,000 people. But still, for an organizing call, that was a big deal. So we were excited. We were happy by that. It clicked down every week, less and less and less. To the last call, we were at like 1,500 people on it. People just did not continue showing up and doing the work at the same level. I'm going to call out my fellow white women. 160,000 of them showed up that first day when it was fun, and Megan Rapinoe was there and Pink was there, but they did not show up. I was at those doors with groups of 4 people or 10 people, maybe 15 people. I think our biggest one we had was our last weekend. We had 25 people each day come and join us, but like 25 people from 160,000, like, we did not continuously do the same organizing. Now I think we need to hit on, I don't necessarily think the ground game is the place that we funnel volunteers and energy, but we need people staying engaged, not tuning out. We need them to start using the thoughts and feelings. We need to make them feel empowered to start tell your phone, tell your followers, go get new followers, go get a TikTok, go start talking about whatever you're DMing me. I agree with you. Go tell them. Go tell your MAGA aunt. And we are now on the offense, and that's what we have to think. It's more fun to be on the offense.
Like, it is more fun to be.
Let's go get them. That we had been on our heels trying to defend this economy and hold on to the White House. Well, now they have it. So gloves are off. Let's go get them. Let's go pull people down a rabbit hole for good. But that's how we're gonna do it. That's how we're gonna punch up. We're gonna go on the offense against them. We're gonna continue organizing. We're gonna raise a ton of money. We're gonna get influencers paid. We're gonna beat them at their own shitty game.
Good.
We're gonna do it better and faster and better funded.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, my new presidential term resolution is to just stop being nice to white men. I'm done. Okay. Men in general. I'm like, I'm done here. You don't give a shit about me. Why are we pretending? What is this? Yeah. The Midwest? Stop being nice to my face if you don't like it.
Yeah, I actually would like people to be a little more mean straight to my face, because I know walking out in DC today, I was looking at people, and I knew people were looking at me going, I know who she voted for, but I was looking at them going, I don't know if I can trust you. And that's
no. And you know what? It is an animal instinct to try to put people in groups. And I'm like, if it's life or death for me, so I guess I'm just going to group all you men together. Mean to you.
Yeah. This is quite possibly where we're at, y'all. I cannot think of a better first show after a night last night than this one that we had just now. So I am so grateful to the both of you for joining me, because I swear to goodness I was going to give you both the option to be like, fuck it, I am absolutely not coming on. And Maya, you can just talk to everybody by yourself for a half hour. So I'm glad that you joined us, and I will see both of you, I'm sure, sometime soon in person, but if not, then we'll see on the digital sphere. Yes, please check out the MK Hour, if I'm saying that right. Can you say that for me, Allison?
Okay. It's like okay with an N. Okay.
Please check out her podcast. And Liz, where can people find you on the socials?
Please follow me on Instagram. It's at Liza Minnella, different than Liza Minnelli, but I think it's just catchy. And please follow me there. There'll be a big postmortem. I think we have to be really honest about what went wrong, and I am a very honest person. And
she's a fun follow. I've been enjoying the unhinged late night videos and early morning videos. So definitely y'all follow her. So thanks, you two. I will see you soon. And hey, everybody, let me tell you, we earned ourselves, because I know everybody that watches this show is somebody who's deeply involved and deeply cares about the state of America and where we are going. And we have all earned ourselves a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a nap. It was no sleep, all gas, no breaks through to the finish line. Well, we made it here and we're still intact, but we're obviously going to have a ton of work to do to get us out of this fascist funk that we're in. I'm going to call it a fascist funk, but we're going to have to do that with a little bit of optimism and attitude in order to get us to the place that we want to be. So right now, I'm saying to you, grieve, rest. In future shows, I'm going to be talking about the things that I do to keep myself sane and able to thrive during times like these. And I want to say I just appreciate you tuning in and watching the show. And I will see you next week. And hopefully by then, maybe there'll be some changes. Maybe some more votes will come in. I don't fucking know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't have all the answers right now. And next week I won't either. But I will explore and try to find the answers with you. So this has been Punching Up. I am Maya May. You can find me at Maya on Stage on all platforms, including X/Twitter for now. Follow all the Resolute Square shows, and I'll see you soon.